Breath of the Wild 2 finally has a new trailer, and it almost killed me. I've watched it probably 150 times, and that's not even exaggerating at all. And the music, I cannot stop listening to it, it's perfect. Anyway, today I'm gonna go over 75 things to take away from this trailer, with the last 10 being big theories of the game overall. But before we start, what is this? Now, I hate when people bring up this graph, but I literally only have 1% of people who watch my videos subscribe. Surely we just get that number up to 2. And if you do, Breath of the Wild won't be delayed. I promise, my pet fish works for Nintendo. Anyway, let's start. Link's arm is attacked and heavily damaged by the Malice. The Malice infection seems to be spreading a lot like in the first trailer. Ganondorf, or whoever this is alive and seemingly controlling this Malice. We can see he's wearing this robe-like attire and has all these weird holes in his body. It's kinda weird. Zelda falls into a dark cave where nothing else is heard or mentioned about her. It then transitions to a Skyward Sword-like scene, where Link is falling in the sky. We see the new inclusion of these floating islands. Link is wearing a new set of clothing that we haven't seen yet. His hair is also no longer tied back, like how Zelda's hair is now short. On his new clothing, he has what looks like the blue champion robe things that have their divine beasts on it, except it's green, and I don't know what this symbol could mean. Or it could just be nothing. His arm seems to be very destroyed and damaged, as if it was burnt or rotting away from the Malice. Poor guy, he literally just saved Hyrule. The Malice attack that caused the rot also either seemed to reach all the way up to his right shoulder and a bit below, or the infection is spreading throughout his body. The next scene shows a new paraglider with strings, which could indicate wind direction as an important feature of travel. We get a glimpse at the large amount of new sky islands that we have to explore, as well as the extreme distances they have from each other. We also see an unusual man-made looking structure, unlike anything we see in Breath of the Wild. Link has a new shield, which seems to have the Sheikah symbol on it and a few Triforces. 7 pieces? Perhaps we're collecting the 7 Triforce pieces like in Zelda 1? Or it's just a cool design? We then get a look at the new gorgeous looking scene, where we are presumably on a floating island due to its colours. All the floating island scene seem to have this golden yellow look to the leaves and plants. Link's face is never shown, making many believe the Malice rot could have even spread to his face, and something could be wrong with it. Oh, that'll be horrible. We can see these new Torii Gate-like structures, which will be seen throughout many of the islands. In the distance, we can see a silhouette of another island that has the gate, which leads many people to believe that they could be some sort of teleportation method, like maybe as you walk through them it teleports you to another one, as finding a way to get to these islands is pretty unknown at the moment. We then see a new creature, and seems to be very ancient robot-like. It seems to have 2 normal eyes, with some sort of third eye in the middle, which is kind of reminiscent of a Guardian's eye. Its head seems to be connected to the body through the use of what is seemingly this good green looking energy, which is seen a lot in both of these trailers. His shoulders have this weird egg-like shape, which is seen on stands throughout all these floating islands. His chest also has some sort of new symbol, which to me just looks like a broomstick, but it is surrounded by what looks like this green energy. Its dangling ear things also look like they're in the shape of a Sheikah symbol, possibly implying who created it. We're then taken back to the ground where Link is unusually in his regular hero's tunic again, and his hair's tied up again. But this isn't before the Malice attack, because we can see his arm still looks the same. We can also see what I assume to be evolved versions of the Bokoblins, as their horns are significantly longer. Enemy camps can now be seen and movable on top of stone talus bosses. His weak points are heavily protected with barricades, as well as spikes to stop climbing, which makes me wonder, how do we even get up there? Especially since we don't know if Revali's Gale or the other champion abilities are returning. This scene also shows that Death Mountain is no longer active. Does that mean we can go inside it, or is this just early development footage? There are also these weird new structures stuck in the ground, which aren't seen in Breath of the Wild 1. Also, no shrines or towers seem to be in sight, and that stays true for the rest of the trailer. And what's weird is on these land scenes, the floating islands are nowhere to be seen. Perhaps there's just some invisible barrier type thing. I'm pretty sure that's a thing in Skyward Sword. We then see Link lying down in what looks like, but I don't actually think is, the Shrine of Resurrection. He's not wearing a shirt, however, which is quite reminiscent of how he's dressed when he was revived in the Shrine of Resurrection. So who knows? We can see his damaged arm seemingly get healed by this green energy mentioned before. He also has a new gauntlet over his arm. I personally think that this new gauntlet is what's going to hold or replace the Sheikah Slate, as the Sheikah Slate is never seen in this trailer, and you'll see something in a moment. So that's what I think the gauntlet does. I reckon the green energy, though, is what keeps the Malice infection, or damage at bay and to stop it from spreading or to just heal it or something. Link's nails though also seem to be pretty long compared to normal. This leads us to believe that either the malice is transforming him into some beast and the green energy is trying to stop that, or he's been lying there for quite some time healing and due to the passing of times, his nails just naturally grew. Who knows? This is where we see the Sheikah Slate-like powers come from his arm as he uses a new rune on this metal ball. It appears to be stasis at first, however it proves to be a new rune that will set a certain object back through its past events, such as this ball rolling down the hill to rolling back up the exact path it took down. That is so cool. I can only imagine the crazy stuff they're gonna let you do with that. The Lubokoblins also seem to have this extended horn, and Moblins seem to have these new spike hat type thingies as well. Not sure why or what that does for them, but good on them. The next shot shows Link with a new weapon, being some sort of flamethrower connected to a shield. What? That is so cool. The flamethrower seems to have a dragon-like appearance, which could indicate it was created by the Zonai race, who worship the dragon. We also have this new slug-like monster who clearly takes damage from fire. Good to know. And there's also a pedestal in the background, which would suggest that something such as a chest would spawn upon defeating the creature or something. We then see a water droplet going back through time where it came from, just like the rune Link used, heavily implying the reversal of time. It then transitions to this clip where Link has the ability to go through solid objects, which seems to be with the help of his arm, and honestly, again, who knows where they can go with this. And because those two shots go hand in hand, well, it looks like they do. We can assume this action was possible from reversing and somehow traveling with the water droplet as it goes back up where it came from. This is further proven with the liquid and ripple-like particles that appear when Link is performing this new mechanic, so honestly, this is crazy. This could also be our way of getting to these new islands, or maybe even just a way to get to a high up vantage point to paraglide to the other islands, as this one seems quite barren, at least with this camera angle. We also see more of these egg-like structures, which I still have no clue what they mean, or they could literally just be lights that glow at nighttime or something. We also see on islands in the distance, the exclusiveness of the golden leaves, which I really hope isn't true, because I want all sorts of different environments and colors in these new areas. This island also shows a new structure thing, which really doesn't indicate anything just yet, but it could be important. Who knows? Down below, we can also see a familiar area of Hyrule, which is the massive mushroom area where it's always thunderstorming. And then around here is when the music starts reversing, also implying the whole turning back time theme. And we then move to Hyrule Castle, where it doesn't look any different to how it did in Breath of the Wild, implying that not much time has passed, especially since the good ending implied that Zelda and Link were going to help restore Hyrule. They haven't quite done that yet by the looks of it. We can then see the castle crumble as the malice seems to lift up the nearby area, and the final scene where the castle is lifted up, and this is just an amazing shot, where we can hear Zelda's lullaby slowly playing. And that's the end of the trailer. The final 10 points are going to be about large-scale theories towards this new and extremely exciting game. Starting off with the possibility of 2 Links. Some people think there are 2 different Links in this game, because 1, we never see his face, and 2, because Link only has his blue tunic whilst on land, and only has his new clothes and hair untied when up in the sky. And there is reasoning for people to think this, and that's because some people think that this Link is the Link from 10,000 years ago. This is a real thing, by the way. If you remember the story of Breath of the Wild and Zelda in general, you know Link, Zelda, and Ganon's spirits are always reincarnated over time, and there is a 10,000-year-old prophecy version of Link. People seem to think it looks a lot more like Link seen in the old prophecy of the most recent defeating of Ganon since Breath of the Wild, and well, another thing could support this: the beginning of the Breath of the Wild timeline. Breath of the Wild is the only game Nintendo haven't given us a clear indication on where it fits in the timeline, and this might be because they're making Breath of the Wild its own timeline. It would make sense. Skyward Sword is the start of the entire Zelda franchise as far as the timeline goes, in which Hyrule was made up of many floating islands. Perhaps this is what the original Breath of the Wild Hyrule also looked like as well. But isn't Breath of the Wild 2 the modern Hyrule? Well, another 2 theories could explain this. 1, we are time traveling to and from the present and ancient Hyrule. Link's appearance could also be changing to look like the 10,000 years ago version of himself, like how he changes between young and adult Link in Ocarina of Time. Or 2, which I think is more believable, time reversal on a major scale. We know Link can reverse time, with the help of this new gauntlet with the green energy. Perhaps Ganon has somehow managed to harness this time reversal to the extreme, where he can reverse the time of Hyrule's geography, thus rising up Hyrule to the Sky Island island land thing it used to be. Who knows, it's crazy. Another thing that seems to spark heaps of theories is who this is. We all assume it's Ganondorf or Demise for Breath of the Wild. However, some people think this could be the 10,000 year ago version of Link. I mean, his robes do seem to match, but what really sells it is the red stringy hair. It resembles him a lot better than the Link we know. There really isn't anything to say that this isn't the past Link who defeated the Calamity 10,000 years ago, but then somehow got killed and mummified, but is now infected and possessed by malice. I think that would be awesome. The Zonai also seem to be pretty relevant in this trailer, which again could indicate the whole past Hyrule stuff, as they were an ancient race who created a lot of stuff in Breath of the Wild story. We see heaps of ruins with symbols that closely resemble the Zonai. We have these weird structures that aren't in Breath of the Wild, and of course the dragon head flamethrower thing. Perhaps we hear more from or even see the Zonai in this new game. The next theory, which I really hope is true, is that Zelda isn't just another damsel in distress. We know she fell into a cave, but people think she could still be playable in a new underground world we haven't been shown yet. And then eventually Link and Zelda meet up at some point. That'll be awesome. Or, I don't know, Link could like somehow use the rune on Zelda and just bring her back up. Also, since there's an extreme lack of shrines, perhaps the classic style dungeons are returning. It's quite odd the shrines are just gone. And Zelda really isn't Zelda with at least some small or large puzzle solving segments. So with no shrines, surely dungeons are returning, right? That was a big problem a lot of Zelda fans had with Breath of the Wild. And finally, the lack of a title that indicates that there is still something really big that Nintendo are trying to hide from us. Bill Trinen said the only reason we didn't get a new title for Breath of the Wild 2 is because it could possibly spoil something that's gonna happen in the game which they aren't ready to share yet. So until then, all these out there theories and ideas really can't be proven or disproven. I mean, look, it's Zelda and Nintendo, anything can happen. And there's lots of stuff I didn't go over, so many theories out there. An honorable mention being that the monsters are evolving as this new Malice or Ganondorf Demise thing wakes up, because I really don't think a lot of time has passed, so they couldn't really have properly evolved. Surely they just poof, evolved out of nowhere since the new Ganon rised. And surely, my biggest theory is true. Since Link Arm replaces the Sheikah Slate, surely he could just take photos with his bare hand. Like, imagine that. That'll be awesome. So yeah, I don't know how long we're gonna wait until we see this game again, but I can just watch this trailer over and over again. Let me know if there's anything I missed. Let me know how excited you are, because oh my gosh, this game. Anyway, subscribe of course, and thank you all for watching.